All right, good afternoon, good evening, good morning, whenever you're checking this out. Hi. So the last lesson we talked about what it means to solve an equation. We talked about how to tell whether something is a solution or not. And then we also discussed what we called inverse operations. And so the inverse of adding is subtracting, the inverse of multiplying is dividing, and inverse just means opposite. And we're going to put those actually to use today in this lesson. So today is all about actually solving an equation. Now, what does it mean to solve an equation? An equation is solved when the variable is isolated on one side of the equal sign. And isolated just means by itself. And then I have an example for you here. So when your x is all by itself on one side, you know it is solved, and it tells you that x should be 5, okay? Now, when we're solving, there's this property called properties of equality, and that tells us that in order to maintain a balance on both sides, what you change to one side, you also have to do to the other side. And that is one of the key things you need to know for this algebra class for the entire year. What you do to one side, you must do to the other side. And we're going to practice that today. So let's go ahead and start. We're going to start with the addition property of equality. And we have x minus 3 equals 5. So we're going to just start by doing what we did in the last lesson. We're going to name our original operation and then name what the inverse is. So right now with my variable, I have an x minus 3. So I have subtraction going on right now with my variable. And how do I get rid of subtraction? What is the inverse of subtraction? The inverse is addition. Okay, now let's actually put this to use. I'm going to rewrite my problem right here. So x minus 3 equals 5. Okay, we're going to use this inverse operation, addition, to solve for x. Some of you might already be like, Miss, x's. But we're going to go through the steps. It's really important in all of these notes and all of the practice, in your independent practice, in your mastery check, you show your work, because these problems are going to get harder as we get further into this unit, and you need to start showing your work now to make it easier once they get harder. So the first thing that I'm going to do and that I am going to look for is when you are solving for a variable, draw a line right down the equal sign. Okay, we're going to park the red C here, draw a line, and then that's going to help us organize our thoughts for what we're doing to one side and then what we do to the other side. Okay, so I got to get my x by itself, and I know I have to use my inverse of addition. So the opposite of subtract 3 is to add 3. What I do to one side, I must do to the other side. And now, the point of doing the inverse is that, look at minus 3 plus 3, that ends up equaling 0. So those are gone, and I now have x by itself, and 5 plus 3 equals 8. Okay, so x equals 8 is my solution. And now what's really cool is I can go back and check that. So my original one was x minus 3 equals 5. That was my original equation. You guys are great at substitution. You know how to do that. So I found that x equals 8. Let's actually check if that's true. So I'm going to plug it in. 8 minus 3 is 5. 5 equals 5. I know I did it right. X equals 8 really is my solution. All right, if you need to pause me at any point to make sure you get it down, please make sure you do that. When I'm going through these, I am making sure that your notes are full and complete so I can give you full credit. Okay, let's go ahead and we're going to work our way down. So subtraction property of equality. So I here have 17 equals b plus 2. So with my variable, I have a plus 2. So my original operation is addition, inverse of addition. What's the opposite of add? Subtract. And now I'm going to go ahead and solve it. I'm going to rewrite it in this space so I can clearly do my work. Again, remember the first thing I want to do, and that the first thing I'm going to look for is that you're parting the Red Sea. And then now we can solve. So I have addition. I know the inverse is subtraction. So I'm going to get rid of my plus 2 by doing the inverse and subtracting 2. What I do to one side, I must do to the other side. My plus 2 and minus 2 end up being 0. So now those are gone, and I just have b left. 17 minus 2, 17, 16, 15. So I get b equals 15. Now I'm going to go ahead and double check my answer. So I said it's 15. I'm going to rewrite my equation. I'm going to substitute it in. So I just plugged in 15 for b because that's what I think b is. 17 equals 15 plus 2 is 17. I know I did it right. B does in fact equal 15. Again, pause me if you need to. All right, so now multiplication, property of equality. Okay, I have x over 8, x divided by 8, so my original operation is division. The opposite of division is multiplication. And let's go ahead and solve. Again, I'm going to start by rewriting this. I'm going to part the Red Sea. All right, so x divided by 8 equals 3. The opposite of divide is to multiply. So I'm going to multiply. All right, the husband just came home. Let's redo that. Okay, so x divided by 8 equals 3. I know to get rid of division. You just told me that we're going to multiply. So I'm going to multiply by 8 on one side. And I'm going to multiply by 8 on the other side. Okay. Now what happens here, because they're inverses, then they cancel each other out. So if you multiply 8 times x over 8, what you get is 8 over 8. And that's a fraction. If you have 8 slices of pizza and you eat 8 of them, you ate one whole pizza. So this right here ends up equaling 1 and goes away. Kind of just like how when we subtracted and added over here, the point of doing the inverse made it cancel out and go away. The same thing happens here when we do our multiplication. So by multiplying by the denominator, my 8's are now gone, and I just have x left over. And then now I can do 3 times 8, which gives me 24. And then let's go ahead. I'm going to say it right here, and I'm going to plug it in to check my work. So I'm going to plug 24 right where x is. 24 divided by 8 is 3, so I know I did it right. X equals 24 is the answer. All right, division. So my original operation happening right now, I have -3 and then nothing and then g. Hopefully you guys should know by now what that means for multiply. And the inverse operation of multiply, the way to get rid of multiply is to divide. All right, so -3g equals 24, part the Red Sea, and -3g equals 24. So I am multiplying right now. In order to get rid of it, I must divide. So I'm going to divide. The number with my g is -3, so I'm going to divide by -3. What I do to one side, I do to the other. And then just like up here with the multiplication, my -3's cancel out. That's the point of the inverse. I have just g left over. And then 24 divided by -3. Well, that's going to be 8. And then I have 1 positive and 1 negative. Opposite signs tell me it's going to be negative. So G equals negative 8. And again, we can double check that. If I do negative 3 times negative 8, negative times a negative makes a positive. 3 times 8 is 24. So we're good there. Great. Okay. Here are some practice ones. Go ahead and give these a whirl. Use my ones above to help you and try your best. So take like 3 to 5 minutes. Use your inverse operations. Try to solve for your variables. Pause me now and get started. All right. Welcome back. I hope you really did pause me and try your best here. This is going to be a key thing you need to know for math this year in order to be successful. So you can see all of my work here. If you need me to pause, or if you need to pause to look at it and write it down and to correct your own work, go ahead and pause me now to correct it. So again, the first one you had 2 times m, so that meant we had to divide both sides by 2. And you get negative 4. B, you had x plus 3.1, so you had to subtract 3.1 from both sides. And then for H, for C, you had H divided by 10. So you multiplied 10 by both sides, and you get 22. Alrighty. Last thing here for these notes, and then you will have some independent practice. So what if you have a fraction? What do you do? So this, slightly similar, slightly different. You just have one extra step, and let me show you. So when you have a fraction, and we are trying to solve for my variable, I'm going to do the same thing with the line. Let's part the red C. Now, to get rid of a fraction, there's going to be 2 steps. We're going to first get rid of the denominator, and then get rid of the numerator. So first get rid of the bottom, and then get rid of the top. So on a fraction, remember that the fraction is division. So you could read this as 2 divided by 3. So how do I get rid of a divided by 3? I'm going to multiply by 3. And then just like above, my 3's now cancel, but instead of having just an x, I have 2x left over. 4 times 3 is 12. Okay, now I have 2x equals 12. So 2 times x. To get rid of a 2 times, I divide. My 2's go away. Remember what you do to one side, you do to the other. 12 divided by 2 is 6. So x equals 6. Okay? Again, multiply both sides by the bottom of the fraction, and then divide both sides by the top of the fraction. All right, go ahead, pause me, try this you do problem. Take about a minute, minute and a half, and then come back and check your work. Again, this is another really important thing, is to really try your best and then come back to check your answer. Go ahead and pause me now. Okay, so we had 3 over 4x equals 6. Part the red C. All right, so we multiply by the bottom, which is 4. What I do to one side, I do to the other. 6 times 4 is 24. And now I have 3 times x. To get rid of times, I divide. 24 divided by 3 is 8. All right, check your work. Make sure you understand this. Rewatch it as many times as you need. Reach out if you need help. The next thing you need to do is finish the independent practice. There are, I believe, 6 problems for you to complete. show all of your work, try your very best,